This is my least favorite measure, but it's doing fine. All right, so this thing is, it's a big chunk of some copper beech that I had cut up a while back. It's right here, 26 inch. Here, much less than that, 19. This little chunk right here is almost 30 inches long, but as you can see, I've got a huge crack right here because this was a limb, and the crack, runs this way, real cracky on the edge. And I've got a check here because this was the end of the board and it dried really fast and cracked in. In the midst of it all, I've got a knot right there, but that knot, yeah, I'd probably take my word for it right now, that knot doesn't go through. That's a blemish only on the surface. I checked the back. As long as I don't go too deep, I'm more than likely going to cut that knot away. So my parameters are basically, I've got this area right in here that I can use to make a tray. So I'm thinking something that's oval. Maybe egg-shaped? Don't know. I'm thinking oval. So I guess what I've got to do first is I've got to get this waste piece off right here, then lock that piece off there, and then take a look at what's left. I want to keep as much of this crinkly compression wood from where the branches were growing together or growing apart. I want to keep as much of that as I can without getting into all of these radiating cracks because they're not going to be real pretty. Anyway, this is going to be a crude, just scooped out, I'll probably router the center of it like that and then pitch the sides down like that. Be nice to have the edges be about 1/4 of an inch thick, the bottom being about 1/4 of an inch thick. This is about 1 inch. It's got a little bit of dimension to it. Let's see what happens. I'm going to split this, probably run it through the planer and flatten it a little bit so that I can have a good starting point, and then we'll try to carve this away. Should be fun. Should be quick. That's the thing. Little quick projects. I'm old. Let's get them done. Get them out the door. Hey boys and girls, thanks for coming. Welcome to my shop. I'm Dave, and today we're going to do another damn thing, because that's what I do a lot. I'm going to try to make a tray. I've done this sort of thing before. I'm going to give it another try, hope for the best. You know how that goes. I've got some terrible pieces of wood, and I've got a thing that I can do with one of them. I've made a couple of trays in the past out of this stuff, and there's a characteristic to the wood that's kind of intriguing a little bit. So let's take a look. They're trays for novelties. I mean, they're really not much important, but they're for novelties, a little collection of novelties. So let's see what I've got. I'll show you. So I've got this chunk of misbegotten wood. Get a measure. Let me get a measure. Okay, table saw time. That a little bit of a burn. This wood is limb wood. It's got all kinds of stresses in it. When this was a limb and growing, it was all being pulled by gravity, and the forces of nature were trying to counteract that by growing extra fibers on the torqued sides. So there's a lot of stress in this thing, and as you cut it, you release some of those stresses. This all makes sense, I'm sure, right? So you can take a piece of wood that's actually perfectly flat and straight, but if you cut 1/2 of an inch off it, it could then bend again because of the stresses that are in it. So this is kind of a moving target. There you go. All right, so let me get this thing. Get this end locked off, and we'll See where we go from here. There we go. I was hoping I could cut that crack off, and I did. There's no crack showing here, which means there should be no crack showing here. That's great. Now, it's a little not flat. It's a lot not flat. Let's see what I can do about that. I'm really not that concerned about the thickness of it. When I'm done, I mean, this is, you know, it's not that thick. It's about 1 1/8 thick, but by the time you take all the low spots off one side and the high spots off the other, probably 3/4. But I don't really care how much of a dish there is to it. I just want there to be a dish. So if this turned out to be 3/4 inch, and then I scooped out 1/2 inch of it, I'd be happy. That'd be fine. So these are, oh, that one's firewood, that's for sure. And let's get this thing smoothed out. I'll be right back. All right, so I kind of coffinized this a little bit just to sort of start the process. And this is back there. Remember I made a comment that there's no knot showing on the back? That knot right there isn't there. I feel pretty confident that I'll get rid of the knot. It's better than finding it at the bottom of the hole to keep, as I cut, hope that I get it all. Anyway, so that came out good. I'm going to end up with a platter-like surface on it. That'll come. It'll all work out. Anyway, so right now I need to get this into the oval shape. It'll be a bandsaw project, I believe. And so now I need to find a spot in here. Let's do a middle first. You know, once upon a time I got a folding rule that started at 1 on both sides, but only at one end. This is it. I hate this damn thing. I wish I'd never bought it. All right, so here's 21, like that. 21 is 10.5. That's the middle. And this is 8. I'm going to favor this side. It's more than 8. I'm going to say this is the center of this. That's 4. And this right here, I like this side a little bit better. So this is 9. I'll call it 8.5. Puts me 4.25. Okay, so there's that. So now I can do this and get myself my center line. I believe that that's what that's going to produce. I don't like this as much as I like this. It's really what it comes down to. So here I've got, at the moment, a potential of 5, and here I've got, you know, potential of 6.5, but I'm going to go with 5. So that's 5.25. So this will be 5.25 right there. All right, so this is going to be 4 and 4, and this is 4 right there, and 4. Symmetry isn't all that important, but it's a thing, you know? All right, so here's my center line, and I'm going to do that, like that, just to keep me from getting lost, right? So do that, and then do that. All right, so that's where I'm going. And this right here, I'm not sure I remember. I was calling that 5.25. This is 5.25. I got it. It's right there. All right. Okay. So now some rough lines. We'll sort of see where this is going. This will be a bandsaw project, but these will help me figure out where my curve is, that's all. And that's done. Good. All right. So let's throw some radiuses on the end. This is that's something maybe round. This is 4 and 4. So let's come back 4. Problem is when I come back 4, it's more than 4 over. So it's like that, like that. And now I pull this back to about there. All right, so now we'll do that. That didn't work. Didn't work at all. There we go, better. There's that. There's that. Let's do the same thing at this end. Looks good. You know, really, that's not awful. I think I'll keep with these heavy lines here. I'll ultimately round this off, but just like with a belt sander. Nothing to that. Bandsaw those. I could table saw these and that. I could bandsaw them just as easy as I could freehand table saw them. Let's go bandsaw. All right. All right, bandsaw time. Let's see what we can do. Oval. Ovalish. Ovalish. That's good. All right. I think I'm going to do a little teeny bit of belt sanding to smooth up the outside edge, and then set up the saw and do some bevel. I think I want to do the bevel first. There's a bevel process on the underside. That pretty much takes care of the underside. And then a routing in the center, and then beveling into that on the top. Problem with routing in the routing is trying to hold it. Trying to hold it. Down, clamping it down to the bench. If I beveled the outside away, it means I'm going to have to do all my holding, deep clamping. So it seems like I want to do the inside first, then do the back. The problem is I want to do the back largely on the table saw, and if the front's cut away, I don't know. Let me think about this. I think I want to get. Let's clean this up. forget everything I said. I'm going to clean this up, belt sand the outside edge, lay out my line, and do the routing on the inside. That's next. Let's do that. All right, well that has accomplished that. Two little marks right here. I'm going to sand this again on this side. They've got some bandsaw marks right there that I'd like to get rid of. Cool. Let's get rid of those. There you have it. All right, bandsawing is done. Sanding is done. This is great. This is the back. This is the front. Now, I want to have about 2 inches of bevel down to a 1/4 inch. And this is, at the moment, 7/8, which is good. This right here is less than perfect. This edge right here dips down. I think I'm going to plane this again, but I think I'm going to plane this again. Let me do this out. I'm going to plane it again. I don't need these marks any longer, because the next thing I'm going to do is trace compass tracing around to define the part that I route out to, 1/2 inch. So let me get this back in the planer and trim this down, get this cleaned up. Be right back. That's all it took. Good. That's great. I use a relatively flat plank as a skid when I'm running pieces that are kind of short through the planer, so I don't get a lot of snipe. And as you can see, I got, I can see it. It's hardly there. So it's a good way of reducing snipe. All right, so over the bench, try to get myself a 2-inch line around here, and then set up a router. All right, little hint for your Uncle Dave. These are great little compasses. These are terrible, terrible little trashy little things. But there's a feature on them that's really cool. This is a somewhat better compass, but it has no hooking feature. And if you could hook this edge over the edge, this leg over the edge, it moves all over the place. It's not good. This has got this pin set on one side. Really, it's got a great feature to it. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it allows you to hook this edge positively on the edge of the piece of wood that you're working on, so that you're always absolutely, there's no question, and you can get the same mark every time. I love this feature. So there's my 2-inch, and I'm going to do that. And the point of using a compass rather than a measure is I can trace the radius. Look at that. Loving it. You still, and you know the drill here, you've got to keep this thing centered on some sort of an axis, because you could still, you can still screw this up. But if you're at all careful, you can make this work. I can. If I can, I am certain that you can. Look at that, huh? You can see where I screwed up, but it doesn't matter because I fixed it. Nothing wrong with fixing screw-ups. All right, so there's my center of this tray. I'm loving this. That's why I sanded the outside edge, so that this would run smoothly. All right, done. Done, done, done. Now this is similar to, I'll probably do that same kind of 2-inch thing when I do the back of this thing with the table saw, I believe. Anyway, put these away and get set up for a router. Don't want to screw that up. All right, let's get ready. Do some routering. All right, router. Get a straight bit of some unknown provenance. Seems sharp. Router bits. Don't like them. Can't sharpen them. I can't. Maybe that'll work. Okay, what's my depth going to be? This is probably 13/16. Oh, you stop. This is 13/16. So I want my depth to be, ½ inch. See what happens. All right, so I'm going to clamp this like that pretty well. And now I'm going to put on some ear protection because this thing makes a lot of noise. Huh? All right, here we go. Plug it in. And that's what's going to happen all the way around. Now I've got my line set at 2-inch. The router cuts 2.5 inch to the edge of this thing. So that means this edge has to be over 1/2 inch to that to get to the line. But that's a good thing to keep my eye on. When I get to this, to the edge of the board, I'm within 1/2 inch. And that'll be good to know. All right. And the trick here is to just move slowly and methodically, and keep a hold of the router. This is the challenging spot right here. Will I get through? Is this 1/2 inch going to be enough to get through that? We're hoping, right? But you can see I'm doing pretty well. I got to do obviously a trim pass around every place, but I'm coming along, almost halfway done. What knot? Remember there was a knot there? And it's gone. It's gone. It's going to work out. A little more than halfway. I think I'm going to trim this to the line best I can. And then we'll reset and do the other side. Little spot right there before I leave this. I'm going to turn this around. I can do better than that, I think. See what happens. All right. Let's get this over. About halfway. This is as deep as it's going to be. I got to clean this up. It's imperfect. I wobble every now and then. But all in all, coming along. You can see why I was worried about beveling this edge beforehand. This is working out real well like this. All right, now it's chisel time. Go around, chisel us off. Can't wait. Can't wait. Now here we go. Not much of a carver, so I've got this. I'm not sure if I need a flat gouge or a deep gouge. Don't know which. I think I'm going to start with this one. Look at that. I'm probably breaking all the rules here, but when you're ignorant, you don't have to worry about rules. I think let's start off with, I'm going to save myself 1/4 inch of this edge for slightly rounding purposes. So don't do any gouging there. Well, at the moment it feels like it's going to be a lot of work, but at the same time I think I'm going to get it. Now I can see where there's a problem. I'm going to have to square up at some point and start carving in, which means I probably want 2 clamps, but I'm not sure. Let's just move this around a little bit, because I probably should be cutting perpendicular to my line. In other words, I should be like that. Let's do that. Oh well, God bless you. Oh, come on. I'm going to go with the grain, with a flatter gouge, and just work my way at an angle rather than diving down. Let's see how this works. Definitely need a second clamp because of the old rotation thing. Let's grab another clamp. Try that. Having done just this couple of inches of this, you get to realize how much work that router does. Good for it. I'm going to leave myself an edge here because I've got, as you can imagine, a bunch of gouges. But I've got one like this, which isn't great for going into wood deeply, but for doing that finishing thing, this will be perfect. Or it'll be nothing in my hands is going to be perfect, but it'll be better. All right, so I'm not trying to cut down all the way to this surface. I can't say that I'm disappointed. It's going pretty well. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's going pretty well. Right. I've got about half of it, almost exactly half of it roughed out. Roughed out, you know, down to this shape. Not touching this line, not down to this surface. I have a thing I keep thinking about. I've got a sanding thing on my right angle grinder. Maybe I can get it to get in here and do some of this. But I want to get this material off first. I mean, the gouge work has got to get done first. And then we'll, rather than going through the process of finishing with the gouge, which I don't know that I can. Probably going to always end up with some sanding. It's just, I don't know if anybody's caught on, but this is Beech. Beech is right up there with, I mean, it's not quite the same as cast iron, but it's close. It's hardwood. Hard for me. I'm a carpenter. House carpenter. You know, the hardest wood we get into, sometimes framing with oak, sometimes doing interior trim with red oak or mahogany, but for the most part it's softwoods, or you know, basswood, poplar, the softer hardwoods. I don't have much of a experience with woods like this. This is hard. I keep switching over from going straight from here to there, thereabouts, to scooping in. I know in the end I really want it scooped. In my mind it's scooped, but I don't want to get overly scoopy with it at the moment. I also know that the outside edge is going to be pretty much straight line, 2¼ inches to the edge in a straight line, as straight as I can. If I'm going to have a straight line on the outside edge. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Now I'm getting into that crotch grain here. It could go in any direction at any given moment. I'm going to hate myself if I split something. Which is the point of this gouge. This gouge, the corners are up. They're never going to get engaged. I'm barely ever using more than half of this gouge. But I don't know if you've noticed, but I've shortened my strokes. I'm only working a little bit here, not doing the full line. Hopefully I'll catch myself before I create a real problem. Ooh, boy, that seems hard. Right. I think it's time to move the clamp a little bit. Get around this edge a little bit more. All right. Wow, that's hard. Curiously, because these are, I paid real good money for these chisels. I don't know what brand they are, but yeah, I really don't know what brand they are. There's a marking on them. I probably could find out. Anyway, I paid good money for them. They are made out of, I was told at the time, you know, Swedish steel, best steel in the world. They hold an edge real well, and they don't chip. So I'd say whoever told me that was trying to let me know of something. I don't know. They're trying to tell me something. I think they were right. I don't know if you noticed, I just had a real problem here. It's chipped. I don't think it chipped out of control, but it chipped. I don't like it. So I'm going to try coming back the other way. Wow. This is hard. Okay, I think I'm into that area that chipped. Not bad. Not bad. I'm hoping that this part's better. Oh my goodness, this is something. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I should be going that way on this. Oh, maybe I caught myself before I went too far. Let's hope. Let's hope. All right. Ooh. Oh, home stretching it here. All right, I'm definitely going to turn this around to cut that way. Oh well. Yep. All right, let's do that. Somehow, I won't be cutting into the clamps. I'll be cutting away from them. That will probably have a whole new dynamic to it. That's about it. All right. Huh. feels a little awkward. Oh, okay. Moving it again. Nearly have it. I mean, for the first pass. Really close. Really, really close.